Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I am your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we got a great episode for you guys. It is going to be mostly the backlogs that we focus on for today. I don't think we had too many recent books, but some good ones still to dive into. We got Miles Morales coming up. You can see we have X-Men listed up here, a couple other X-Men related books, Batman the Brave and the Bold, some Outsiders, so on and so forth. And because it is an Omega run, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into our reviews. So on the docket, we have 10 to be reviewed as per usual. If you see the video, you already know that you can see X-Men number 9, but I'll go through the whole list so the audio listeners can hear as well. So X-Men number 9, then we have Dazzler number 4, Rat City number 15, and this is going to be the last one for Rat City. I dropped this one, and so that'll be the last book. Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 18, which is also issue 300. This ended up being a double issue, so about 60 pages that you had in this one. Sister Imperator number 4, which is the last of that series. This is kind of an interesting one-off. Shi Haikyo, which I don't know. I was interested to just pick up something different. So this was from Crusader. So we'll review that one real quick. We have the Scarlet Witch number 2, Danger Street number 5, Outsiders number 10, second to last on that one, and then Batman the Brave and the Bold number 12, which were a little over the midway point there. I think there are 20 of those in total. So we'll go ahead and start off with X-Men number 9 here. I'll go and flip over to the share screen camera so you guys can see it up there. Before we dive in fully into the reviews, for those that don't know, maybe new to the show, I spoil the hell out of all of these books. So if you're not looking into spoilers, this is not going to be the show for you. Just don't know how to do it any other way. But I'll review the book, try to catch you up on the story of where things are at thus far. I already know a couple of these ones are pretty confusing with how in-depth that we are for some of the stories, but I do it to the best of my ability. And then I'll give you the score and tell you whether or not it's a good time to jump in. And if, I overall recommend the book to you. So that's kind of going to be the format for all 10 of the books. So, of course, here we got X-Men number 9 to start off. As you can see for the video folks, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this one ends up being part 3 of Raid on Grey Malkin. And so this is a crossover between kind of the standard X-Men and then also Uncanny X-Men as well. So 2 are featured in the regular line, and then 2 are featured in Uncanny. So this is part 3, and it immediately picks up from what happened in part 2, which is nice. So we have basically for this book, it's a standoff between our standard X-Men and the Uncanny. Our standard X-Men are like kind of Cyclops, Psylocke, Juggernaut, Nightcrawler Nightcrawler's on the Uncanny side, a couple others. And then on the Uncanny side, it's Rogue, it's Wolverine, it's Gambit, and it's Nightcrawler for the most part. And then they have some newer recruits that they have in there as well. Some of the folks from each side were captured by this Grey Malkin prison, which actually ends up being the mansion from before that they were, the X-Men were doing all their training and everything. And on the X-Men side, I believe it's Beast who's captured. And then on the Uncanny side, it's one of the new recruits, Calico and Jubilee, who's captured. So they're trying to break them out, but they don't want to make too much noise. They don't want this to be a declaration of war with all of them attacking at the same time. It's kind of too late. They're now in the middle of trying to break out both sides, and they're kind of fighting each other, and they maybe don't understand fully why, and it is explained here. So as the fighting continues, it's Psylocke and it's Nightcrawler who end up fighting, and they bring each other from the main level of the mansion down to the lower level. And as they continue to fight, they both suddenly realize that they're not as pissed off at each other as to what's happening before. So there's some psychic in the prison who's affecting them. And he's revealed, he's been revealed before as helping out on the Grey Malkin side of things. And he's causing the tensions to continue to escalate and the emotions to be so high. But the head of the prison, Dr. Ellis, is like, hey, you said you're one of the greatest psychics, that you can rival even Xavier. So I want you to have everyone under your influence so we can imprison them. That's the whole point of this whole thing. But when Psylocke and Nightcrawler are fighting each other in the basement, they turn over and they see another vault that's there. So there was a vault that was revealed in part 2 of this, in the Uncanny issue, that Rogue and Cyclops are looking at, and they presume that this was Xavier. And then there's also a vault downstairs, and Nightcrawler and Psylocke are not quite sure what that one's about. So then the scene goes back up top where you have Cyclops' side and Rogue's side. They're fighting off against some mutants that have been under the influence of the prison. So they're like kind of corrupted in a way. And so they beat all those guys fairly easily. But now they're trying to decide, what do we do with the vault up top here? So Rogue wants to open it up, assumes it's Professor Xavier. It's like, great, let's get him free. And then let's start this whole thing over again. Cyclops is like, no, I don't want him free. This is the first time we're actually truly free as mutants and not under the influence of Xavier, whether or not he's actually literally influencing us or we're trying to live in his vision. We can actually just be free and do whatever we want. So a lot of arguments go back and forth between Rogue and Cyclops trying to figure out what exactly they want to do next. Rogue basically leading the Uncanny side, and obviously Cyclops leading the X-Men side. And so as they kind of come to a head, the psychic who's working for the prison reveals himself, and he's like, got you now, I'm going to put you in what's called white protocol. And so all their eyes turn white, and the whole background goes white, and it looks like they're under his spell. But then it's Nightcrawler and Psylocke who reveal who was actually in the vault downstairs, and it was actually Xavier downstairs. So he's revealed, he's in handcuffs, he comes up. So now, shit's about to hit the fan here. But then the question is well, who's in the vault on the main level? TBD. We do not know yet. So interesting stuff. I'm sure that'll be revealed in the next one. Again, this all happened in the past, kind of a while ago. So this was revealed Christmas Day is when this came out. So for 2024. So all this has happened and taken place, but again, it's part of my backlog, so just catching up here. And I enjoyed the heck out of this. So I gave it a 4 again. Lee gave it a 4 as well. Let's go ahead and show off some of the art here. I think at this point, X-Men is probably 6 or more issues in if they're doing about 1 a week. So I think we're on 18 or something like that at this point. But you can see some of the artwork here. Very good. Awesome. I didn't show the right scene here. Awesome, really good splash page that you have towards the front of the book, and then some more fighting that takes place. The majority of that is just the fighting and the arguing between both sides. Let's skip over to the white protocol phase because I think that's important. Here's where Rogue and Cyclops are getting into it, where the psychic reveals himself, and then so many ads in Marvel stuff, but here's kind of that white protocol, which is a pretty cool page that you have there. And then you get the reveal at the ends of Xavier from Nightcrawler and Psylocke coming up top. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. I'd say, at this point, just jump into whatever the most recent stuff is, but overall, very good book of X-Men. Again, that's X-Men number 9. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4. Next up here, from the highs of X-Men to the lows of Dazzler. So this is the 4th and final of this mini-series. I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3. And Dazzler has just been kind of a weak book overall. I'd say, it just didn't even do a good job of just trying to be what it is, which is very melodramatic for not even young adults, almost like a teenager type flick. That's happening here, but Dazzler's whole thing, she's basically Taylor Swift, but she has mutant powers, living in a world where there's plenty of tension between humans and mutants, and there are all these terrorist threats on her concerts. In a couple of issues, she's done interviews, but her group, and herself included, have been corrupted by psychics, so they ended up attacking live on the air, and it's further goes to show that mutants are more dangerous, so it's is this concert doing any good versus bad? And in the last issue, one of her friends, I forget the first name, but the last name was Cheney, they're out in Tokyo trying to have a good time, but then they got caught up by the villain Arcade, and ended up doing a lot of damage out in Japan. So now it's like, okay, now she's out here like gallivanting around, but still causing this destruction. Now we come to the last and final stop, which is in New York, where you're going to have the final concert. And, they're worried, obviously, of all these attacks that keep happening. They're pretty random. They haven't really caught the main person, but they're like, hey, the show must go on, and we're not going to let this stop us. So they go and they try to have the show. And, of course, shit starts to hit the fan, where a lot of the stage and production and like all the scaffolding that holds up like the speakers and the lights and everything starts to turn into this amalgamation. And they're like, oh, okay, is this like the big bad? And they start fighting this thing, beat it pretty quickly, whatever it is that was attacking. The twist here is that Dazzler relies on like sound in order for her powers to work, whereas like Jubilee, for instance, is mostly light. And the stage production equipment and the speakers was like pulling in or sucking in all the sound. But she put her hand up against like some of the speakers and could feel the vibration, and that's then allowed her to feel the music and then use her powers, stopped this amalgamation of these speakers and electronics. But that wasn't the big bad. Then it turns out in the end, it's actually one of the multiple men. So the multiple men is like a dude, but he can make clones of himself, and he's part of the production squad. So it's actually a rogue individual of those clones back from the Krakoa era that was hitting on Dazzler, and I guess just jealous ex, and he's not even really an ex-boyfriend, but just jealous and pissed off and trying to sabotage her tour. So he reveals himself. Of course, everyone gangs up on him, and they're able to win. They finish out the concert. Everyone lives happily ever after. We'll see what's next up for Dazzler. That's the end of it. It was weak. I think it's a decent conclusion for how weak it was. I mean, it's not like it was totally disappointing. It's like, this is how the story has kind of been. I understand League going even lower than me, but I was like, I don't think it deserves 3. I think it was fine, and the story made sense. So no issues or concerns there. But overall, would not recommend this book, even the 4-parter. If you really, really want to, like, maybe Marvel Unlimited, but you don't need to waste your time, to be perfectly honest. So with that, let's go and flip through some of the artwork that we have here. I'd say, it is par for the course as far as X-Men and as far as Marvel goes. Nothing too crazy. I think all the characters have really nice detail and so on and so forth. The storytelling is mostly done through the writing, though, and not so much through the artwork, which isn't a ding. Either way, I think it's just is what it is for this book in this series. Meant for a younger audience, and I think the thing is like, just because something's meant for a younger audience doesn't mean it needs to be bad. And this wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. It's just like so meh. I take it or leave it. So anyways, that's Dazzler number 4. Again, I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3. Then next we have Rat City number 15. And then this one, I was actually way lower than League on this, which I was a little surprised to see. So I gave it a 3.5. League gave it a 4.3. I think I mentioned it was 2 issues ago. I thought it was like a really good stopping point for Rat City, and it could have ended and it'd been fine. But then it kept going, and I'm in this era now of don't have to read everything to the end and feel like you need to be a completionist. Like, who are you trying to prove yourself to? It's totally fine. So I did drop this one. But when you drop something at my shop, you do get like 1 extra copy, unless somehow you just happen to drop it and time it like the week that final copy is going to come until the next one like hits the order cycle. So you end up getting 1 more copy. This is that additional copy, so this should be the final one after this one. So in the end, it is
no thanks.
No thanks for me. Just because I thought we had a pretty good ending. I don't necessarily like where we're going next. And we're just like adding more stuff just to be adding more stuff. So I don't feel a need to continue with it. So yeah, I gave it a 3.5, but League gave it a 4.3, which is crazy to me. I was like, it's fine. It's not 4.3 good in my opinion. Not even really the artwork either. So the story here is Peter, who is the Spawn, seems to have died, or he's like land in between. So it's like between life and death. Kind of a purgatory type deal. And there are other like hell spawn spirits in the forms of animals trying to figure out who the next spawn should be. And they're like, okay, should we continue with Peter? but he actually hasn't technically died before, so he can't really be spawned. So the fact that he's even wearing what's called the deviant suit in the first place has been like on borrowed time, is I guess what we're supposed to insinuate. Not a huge Spawn lore guy, so I just really don't know. But you know, you had 14 issues of this and he didn't die, and he's been the Spawn this whole time, so I'm not too sure. In this in between, he meets Rise or Riz. I've been saying Riz, but now I'm looking more closely at maybe it's actually Rise. But he is a comrade that they were in special ops together. He died, and so he sees him here, and Rise is like trying to get him through all this. And it's like, you're gonna be fine. You can continue to be the Spawn. Like, reach out and grab my hand. But he's a little shady about it, and Peter's like trying to figure out what's all going on, and like Rise won't actually tell him what's really going on. So that's taking place. And then these spirits, they're trying to decide, should it remain with Peter or should it go to this other guy who was a new character brought to us in the last issue or the one before. It calls back all the way to the very beginning of this book, where Peter, part of the special forces team, they go into like some ultra wealthy, maybe cartel person, maybe some sort of drug trafficker, but rich via nefarious ways, and they're supposed to take down this guy. In that assault attack, there's collateral damage. This young kid died, and it turned out to be this guy's brother. So he was introduced as like trying to get revenge, but he died, or he's in this land in between because he was like hit by a bus as he entered into Rat City. And now they're trying to the spirits decide maybe this is the guy who we should go with. They're like, nah, maybe he's a little soft. And so some of these spirits are like trying to goad him into, hey, we know who killed your brother. He's here. And now he's getting all pissed off and fiery. And then some of these spirits that are like politically trying to figure out who the next Hellspawn are trying to prove like, no, he's actually got the stuff. He could be Spawn. So that's the story. That's the issue. That's how it goes. For me, yeah, 3.5 felt about right, but League had different thoughts. So with that, go into some of the artwork here. The artwork for Spawn Rat City has been very good. I will say that. But to me, I was like, I don't know if it's necessarily warranted being above a 4. You do get this pretty cool, turn the book to a vertical format, full spread here. That looks pretty nice, which is rare. I feel like that might be the first for this book. There may be some other ones that it's just not coming to mind, but I can't remember other issues that have that. That's usually a pretty notable thing. But then this book is also tends to be $1 less, and it's a lot shorter. But here you have Peter meeting up with Rise and just talking through his whole thing, and then he's like reaching out to him, but he seems to be acting a little shady here at this point, so we're not too sure what's going to happen. And I won't know what happens either because I'm dropping the book, right? Maybe one sneaks in there, but at this point, I do really want to focus on paring down that pull list. I've mentioned this is just a repeat over and over for you guys, but there are new folks that jump onto the show and maybe pick it up, so important to make sure they understand the context. So I try to tread lightly on those things, but if it gets too repetitive, just let me know in the comments. Like, dude, we get it. Just move on. Keep reviewing the way that you are. You don't have to repeat everything every single episode, so on and so forth. But anyways, that's Rat City number 15. I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 4.3. Then next up we have is Miles Morales Spider-Man number 18, but it's like issue 300, so that's why it's a double feature. 72 pages is what it has on League. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.4. I would say this is definitely the comic of the week, or the comic of the issue, whatever you want to call it for this episode. So good. Really, really enjoyed this one. You have the double feature, which is like, okay, is this going to be long in the tooth? But the way that they decided to spend a bulk of their time is the fight scene that you have between Miles' side and Gal/Rabbler's side. So to catch you up here, this takes place after Gang Wars, that whole event that took place for mostly it's a Spider-Verse characters, where you had a whole bunch of just villains fighting each other. That's been settled, and now that that's been settled, the law was that there could be no vigilantes. That law has been lifted, and so with that, Agent Gao, who has been our main, or one of the main adversaries for Miles, doesn't really have a role anymore, because she had this squad or crew of a bunch of different villains. They're put together on like a work release type deal. Hey, you do special missions for us under Agent Gao. You get some time taken off of your sentence. Miles had to work under her, and Luke Cage was like, yeah, with the vigilante thing done, this whole program's getting shuttered. You're going to get reshuffled in. Gao's like, I don't like that. And she goes and actually seeks out Rabble. And then here is basically the fallout of all of that. So Gao wants Rabble, and Rabble's whole powers are able to communicate with technology and be very in sync and in tune with technology. So she has these, rather than like dampening power collars that you see for mutants, these collars actually boost people's like superpowers and abilities to like the nth degree. She's like, I need you to enhance these so we can put these onto the Cape Killers, which is like Taskmaster, Hightail, Gus, a couple others, to help me basically beat out Miles and his squad. So Rabble does agree to that. Miles on his side, they're trying to be proactive and go after Rabble before she strikes again. Like, hey, we've had all this history and this back and forth. We know she's probably going to strike again. How can we get on the forefront of all this? So they decide that they need to figure out where she's at. They go to Bar with no name, but Miles is underage. So they get their uncle to help, Prowler. So he goes in there and basically figures out where she's at. Miles goes in alone, but he's never actually really alone. Whole squad is behind him, backed up. He finds out where Rabble is, confronts Rabble. When he does that, that's when Gao shows up with the Cape Killers, and they have the collar on. So Gao has control of the collar at first, turns it on. It does heighten their senses, right? So if they operate at like an 8 out of 10, now they're operating at a 10 out of 10, and now they're pretty tough for them to beat. So Miles' whole squad, he shows up, and now they're just barely hanging on, and it's like a pretty dead even back and forth. Then Rabble, it's like, here's my master plan. I actually control all this technology. So now I'm controlling all of them, including Gao. And I'm not just turning it up to 10, I'm turning it up to 11. So now the Cape Killers are like burning themselves out, but they're beating Miles and his squad. Shift is down. Starling is barely holding on. Miss Marvel's not doing well. Rhino joined the whole situation. He's not doing well. Everyone seems like his friends are dying to the villains, but the villains are also dying because they're burning themselves out. And Rabble's like in charge. And Miles is like, shit, I don't know what to do right now. And that's the end. So major cliffhanger of like shit is looking real bad for Miles and squad. Like literally every single person is at risk under the command and control of Rabble, which is nuts. So I enjoyed it. Thought it was awesome. The artwork's incredible. They definitely went all out for this 300 issue. Obviously, it's a double feature too, so it's worth the extra money. It's $9 book, so it is expensive, but it was worth it in my opinion. So I think that they did a really good job here. We'll go ahead and flip over to the artwork so you can go and see this. So I'd say the first quarter of the issue is like Miles and squad trying to figure out what they're going to do. Nice little splash page that you got here. They were going after Bumbler at first, who has some of the upgraded technology, and then once they realized Bumbler can't do anything for them, that's when they decide to go to Bar with no name. Gao is meeting up with Rabble, and they're trying to figure out the technology. Here are all the Cape Killers, which Rabble is like well aware, trying to figure out this whole collar thing. Bar with no name, talking through that whole thing. Just kind of skip around here because it is a much larger issue, of course. Then we get into the fight scene that takes a majority of the issue. And remember, Miles has always been a lot more action focused, and now check that out, right? So full spread here, the fight scene between both sides going after each other looks incredible. It's just really good stuff. So yeah, I've been enjoying Miles a lot. Most of the issues have been a 4, if not higher. So you have very few filler things. It does, kind of rely a little bit more on emotions and things like that. So here's the point at Miles is desperate. He's I just don't even know what to do anymore. So it's, yeah, desperate times for Mr. Morales. We'll see how it all shakes out. Again, I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.4. Very good issue. I think we're on 33, 34 at this point for where we're actually at in the story. But next up here, Sister Imperator. This concludes this one. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
I thought the book was good. It wraps up in an interesting way this weird story that we have here. So to catch you up, our main character here, she was part of an abusive family. Her stepfather was abusive, but part of the church, used his status of being part of the church of like he could do no wrong, but in actuality he was like abusing her mother and these other like twin sisters that she had as well. Those twin sisters died, and they've been seeking out to try to get revenge on this guy. Last couple issues have this whole crazy story of her having this really sick, twisted, effed up life. She ends up in France. She meets like this circus people that like take her in. She heads them back to the States. She has this boyfriend. She then has this crazy idea that she's just going to go out and kill all these different abusers, which she does. And then we kind of get to the point now of the book where she keeps seeing visions of her twin sisters constantly. And these visions have been happening more and more and more often. And it's gotten to the point where she can't ignore anymore, that she just needs to now go after this, stepfather, reverend, priest person, and that they've been going after in the first place. So that's the point of book number 4. And it's already revealed in the very first issue, like the first couple pages, that she finds him and does end up like torturing him and like killing him, basically. So this is just the story as to why and how it all happened, basically. So she finds him, and at first she was about to kill him, but sees that he had another son. So in all these years where she left and everything, I guess he found another family, had a son, and she held back and didn't want to kill him in front of his son and then traumatize that kid. So holds back. The twin sisters, they keep showing up, and are just like, what the heck, like, we died, like, none of this matters, so what if you had another son? That's totally and completely fine. Meanwhile, she actually has a son who's back in France. She writes to that person who's watching over him in the circus, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go and I have to leave. I'm gonna be back in a couple days. We're not really sure as to why that is. So then we flash back to the now. She finds a good time to go in and kill him. She does kill him, and then this reporter who was in this jail cell after she was caught in the very first issue has just been jotting down this whole thing. Police officer then comes up, and you can't really see the face. And she's like, hey, time's up, with the reporter. It's like, what the heck? She's just about to like finish the whole story as to what happened. She's like, yeah, well, time's up. Sorry, you have to go. So the reporter then leaves, and then it's revealed the face of the police officer is actually the woman that helped her out and has been raising her son over in France, who flew in, I guess just dressed up as a police officer, let them all out, and then I guess they kind of go on to live happily ever after type deal. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool way to end it all. So it's a interesting winding story that goes all over the place, and just when you think like you know what's going on, you really don't. There are times where I was like, this just seems crazy and over the top, and it's tough to suspend disbelief, but at other times I'm like, it's a comic now, like, stop being all snooty about it. It just like is what it is. You read the story and so you either jive with it or you don't. So yeah, I think that's why in the end I came down with a 4 on this one. Just a 4-parter mini series. I'd say overall probably a skip. It would be what I say. If you're looking to read something different outside of like a superhero type deal, then yeah, for sure. If you're looking to explore Dark Horse, for sure. But you can probably save your money on this one in the end, is what I would say. So let's go into the art real quick. The other thing is like there's nothing too crazy or special about the art either. So, and I've mentioned it before, it's like that newspapery feel, and that does affect the quality whenever I'm reading these books. But like, I mean, like, look at this. This is pretty standard, right? So large gutters in between, standard 6 panels here, and that's how most of the book is. It's like, we're not doing anything fancy here. So we're just trying to really have the text tell the story for us, and it does do too much for me anyways. So yeah, that's Sister Imperator. Overall, it is a skip. Again, for number 4, I gave it a 4.0, and League gave it a 4 as well. So yeah. Next up here was an interesting one. So Shi Haikyo, and this one came out, I think, in 2021 is when it initially came out. But then you had this moon variant, and it was part of the previews. And I was like, okay, this looks kind of cool. It's a one-shot. Let's just go ahead and check it out, and that'd be fine. This is not accurate here. It's not a 64-page 30, so I don't know why that is, but it's literally just, I think, the one issue. And this is a very, very tough one for me to review because I don't have any of the background of this character, and it was very clear that there's a whole bunch of shit going on in this universe and what's happening here. So I'll just talk high level of just this one story and what I thought, and I don't think I'll continue reading this or any other universe, but, you know, sometimes it's good to just try different things and see if you might be into this or may not be. I think a good example is like TMNT, right? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The latest run that's happening right now outside of like the last Ronin, I heard has been pretty good. But I was like, I don't like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I'm not going to pick it up. But I'm sure if I would have picked it up and read it, I probably would have liked it a lot. Would have started a whole different thing. One of the regrets that I have is like not picking up some singles. So I was like, okay, if you're interested in it and it's just one book, you might as well just pick it up and just see what it is. So a little bit of the background story here is you have like these different factions and it's like all samurai era, and they all have like different priorities and like political views and things like that. So we open up here with the grandfather being attacked by some sort of like shogun, and a granddaughter who's there, and the granddaughter, but she's like teenage age, maybe preteen. And so grandfather can't do anything. The preteen is captured and taken by this guy. And the mother, who's like, I think this main character with the on the cover, and she finds out. And when she finds out, she's like, okay, we got to go and find where this guy is. And so she's partnered up with a guy who was in prison for a crime from before. It seems like they don't really trust him for XYZ reason, but he seems to know where this Shogun guy is. So they follow his instructions, then but before doing that, they go and try to see the grandfather, who's now in the hospital from the attack. But he's asleep, so while he's doing that, they go and do some more research and investigating. We then cut to the Shogun and the girl, and it looks like it's going to get like weird, like pedo-y stuff, because he's like, put on these robes. But it's not like that. He's like trying to train her in the way of this like sect of Shogun, and corrupt her in a way. So that all takes place. Then we get back to the other family, and they're still trying to figure out like where exactly he could be. And when they go to the first spot and they don't find out, they then call the woman whose daughter and father, her ex-husband who's in jail, and he's like, he may know where he's at. So they kind of figure out, okay, here's likely where he's going to be. And then at the end, the Shogun guy who captured the daughter calls the guy in prison and is like, I have your daughter, I'm going to capture her, and there's nothing you could do. So I was like, okay, there's a lot going on here. Clearly there's some sort of follow-up here. I don't understand how this could just be a one-shot. It feels like the start of something crazy going on. There's a bunch of stuff that I missed as well. But this is comics. You're just jumping in. You're going to see, am I into this? Am I not? Am I going to continue with the story? So on and so forth. So in the end, not really interested. But I figured, hey, let's just jump in and go ahead and check it out. So here's the artwork, which is pretty dope. So the art looks like really good. I was like, all right, we might be onto something here. So I enjoyed it. You have kind of the attack up front here, like I mentioned. Grandfather, he's taken out. And here's where they basically figure out what happened to the grandfather. They're checking in on him. Down in the kind of lair where he took the granddaughter, and they're going to do the training and try to teach her in her ways. I think we also had like a flashback here as well to like why that guy was in prison. So yeah, I mean, decent book. Again, I gave it a 3.5. It's not rated here. Don't really plan to continue with it. There's some like Gooner elements to it, I think, but it really never even truly goes there. So there's that. But overall, just kind of a fine thing, and maybe, flipping through this, it seems like something you're interested in, but as of right now, I think it's a pass. It does say to be continued in number 2, but for whatever reason, League had it as just kind of a one-shot. So if it continues, maybe I'll go, but I actually might just go in and just make sure to like cancel it, because I'm just not interested in what's going to happen next. So they're going to go after the guy. They'll probably stop him. That'll be it, right? Just tough for me to get invested in the characters. So that's Shi Haikyo. I think that's how it's pronounced. Number 1, I gave it a 3.5, and it's not even rated on League. But next up here is Scarlet Witch number 2. And we got 4 more books, including this one. It's a little over halfway point. I gave it a 4 for Scarlet Witch number 2. Lee gave it a 3.9. I think overall, this book is fine. I find that with the Scarlet Witch, it can be very repetitive. And maybe because I've just read so much Scarlet Witch too, but it seems like things are going to go really bad for her, and then she basically remembers that she's the Scarlet Witch, and everything's going to be totally fine, right? Because the Scarlet Witch as a character and as an entity is just so powerful in the Marvel Universe. So last issue we had left off, Darcy and Pietro, right, Quicksilver, are going to a little town in New York where Wanda has everything all set up. It's being attacked. I didn't have the name in the last issue, but the name is the Griever, which is this like sorceress has come to take over. And when they come to support Pietro and Darcy, they see Wanda and she's like completely eviscerated. Like there's nothing left, I think, except for maybe her shoes, and looks like she was like destroyed and dead. So start of this issue, it's like Pietro and Darcy trying to go back and forth, like, is she dead, she's not dead, she's dead, and of course she's not. She's in like the land in between, so another form of purgatory, but I guess for the Marvel Universe. And she goes and she sees like the spirit that is I guess in charge of the realm, basically tells her where she's at and how she can get back. She has to go through this trial, and this trial she has to face off against, it's almost like a kraken, tentacly sea monster type deal. So she goes to face it off, and the guy or whatever, this Cthulhu-y thing, is like, I recognize you, and it's like, you're not going to be able to pass, you're not as powerful as you think you are. And then, as I mentioned, like, Scarlet Witch is basically like, I am the Scarlet Witch, so yes, the hell I am. And sure enough, she defeats the guy, and then almost like looks like she fuses with him as she heads up and is going to like return to, the mortal plane, which is interesting. Meanwhile, the Griever, you have Darcy and Pietro trying to figure out what they're going to do. There's a vault in the little shop, the witch shop that Wanda has, and so they go in there, they find a couple toys that they're then able to distract the Griever with, and while they do that, Quicksilver gets some help, and Polaris shows up, who's like another sibling of theirs as well, and like a mutant. So she helps out, and they're able to basically just distract the Griever while Wanda does her whole trials in order to get back up to the mortal plane, and I'm sure there's going to be a big old fight. So maybe happens in the next issue, could be in the one after that. So sometimes it's anywhere from like 3 to 4 parts per arc within a volume. At least that's what history has told me for the Scarlet Witch anyways. So, fine, suitable. I think the art is actually really good. Is probably what pushed it up towards the 4, but it definitely does fall in between that 3.5 and 4 range is what I would say. So League, I think, is right on the money, giving it a 3.8. So now let's go into the artwork itself so you can take a look. So yeah, basically at the start here, trying to figure out is she alive or not, and then here is where she's at, and she's woken up, and basically lets her know that you're in the land of the dead is where she's at, but I guess not truly dead, and there's a way that she can fight her way out. And so if I flip over here and actually get to, and this is where Darcy. It's actually Darcy. I thought it was Quicksilver. So Darcy is the one who recruits Polaris. The Griever, so you can see her art style. Polaris is revealed here. And then like this Cthulhu-y sea monster that Scarlet has to fight in order to get her way out. And then the fusion towards the end. Is that, like, I think that's what happens, right? She like fuses with this thing. It's not 100% clear, but that's my assumption. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, that's Scarlet Witch number 2. Again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. Next up, so the rest are just DC at this point. But we have Danger Street number 5. I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave it a 4.2. I don't think I'm doing this story and series any justice by reading it in singles. So it is Tom King, and notoriously, you should read his stuff in trades or multiple issues at a time because it can just be really confusing and tough to keep up with. This is a story that has multiple threads. They're mostly linear, but some stuff is non-linear. But it's like Game of Thrones, where you have like 9 different storylines all happening at the same time, right? And most of them don't matter. So to catch you up on everything, the most important thing is there's this kid with a bunch of friends, and he dies. And that way that he died, they were out in the dunes in the desert. You have these 2 buffoons that are trying to get into the Justice League that grab this artifact item, and they're trying to summon Darkseid to defeat Darkseid and to prove that they're strong enough to then join the Justice League. But they summon something else, which is, it looks even weaker than Darkseid, but they die to it. Or they defeat it, but just barely, because they're prepared for Darkseid. And when they just barely beat it, one of these kids shows up, and one of the guys is like in shock, and he turns around and like shoots a blast, and it kills the kid. So unintentional. And now they're all trying to figure it out. There's this police officer involved, like trying to figure it out as well. Then there's these other threads of these other things that are happening in this universe and in this world as well too, that really don't matter as much to catch you up. And to try to do it would just, I could spend like 40 minutes like trying to review like where everything is at in the story, and it just really doesn't matter. So that's really the main plot. In this issue, they know the kid is dead. They have this artifact that can basically bring the kid back to life. They're trying to dig up the grave. They have the casket, but Orion shows up. So Orion is also featured in the New Gods, which is like kind of a present book that's going on right now, written by Ram V. So he shows up, and I forget why, but he's like trying to stop this in the first place, or maybe he's trying to get the artifact. I honestly can't remember. And he starts fighting these 2 doofuses that are trying to resurrect this kid. But one of them, fights Orion. The other one grabs the casket, puts it in his car, and then starts driving off. When he drives off, he starts texting while he's driving. Shouldn't do that. So he drives, and then he runs into the other group of kids that are in like a dune buggy, like trying to get towards the other doofus, because the other one is like blue, and they know that he had something to do with it. So he hits them. It's not like they get hurt or anything like that, but like sideswipes them basically. So the kids keep going. But now the guy in the car with the casket is thrown off course, and then he smashes into a police car, and that turns out to be the police officer that's like investigating this whole thing as well. So now the stories are like finally starting to converge, and so we're going to see what all happens and like the fallout of that, right? Because you have the kid's dead, trying to figure out who did it. Why would you dig up the grave? And then you have the casket of like with the body in it. So it's all about to get pretty crazy. And see how it all ends up, I don't know, tying to one another. Is going to be interesting. So this is book 5. This is a 12-parter, so we have a ways to go. But overall, I would say I'm actually not really enjoying it because it's so confusing, and all these different narrative threads, they haven't all come together yet. And I probably should read like, okay, I read 5. I probably should read 6 and 7, and then I'd have like a better idea rather than just doing 5 and then I wait like a week or 2 and then like catch back up. It's just, but at the same time, I don't think it's also my fault as the reader, because we're 5 issues in and there's still some characters like, I don't even know what the heck these guys are doing or what the point is of what they're doing, what the objective is, what's their goal, how they fit into this stuff. It's just not explained. So I don't think it's 100% my fault. My fault for the way that I'm reading it. 'Cause sometimes I'll just admit like, hey, I probably should have read it this way, or how it was intended, XYZ. But for this one, I don't, because I'm just thinking back, through these 5 issues, the subplots, none of them have been explained up to this point. So that is just my take, how I feel about it. Anyways, let's go ahead and flip into the art. This is another one, so it's Black Label, but it's like, again, like that newspapery feel, which it does throw me off. It just really does. So, and it's told from like this narrative of like it's a fairy tale basically, but it's not actually a fairy tale. So you have that element as well. I think the art is fine. Serviceable. Not great, not bad, just kind of fine, just meh. So, right, because you can see here, like, the gutters and the rails, it's just the standard paneling, and I don't know, I just expect more in my comics in 2025, because I know more is possible, and maybe not every book needs it, and I would agree, not every book and story needs it. Tom King stuff is mostly going to be narrative driven anyways, but why not both, right? Is it too much to ask for both? I don't know. Maybe it is. But for me, maybe I need to stop having this expectation that Black Label. And I didn't realize the casket went flying out of the car when she crashed into the police officer. I missed that piece, but that I guess happened as well. And then here are like all the different narratives that are that are intertwined. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 perspectives. Actually, I think 8, and then this is just kind of just wrapping it all up. So 8 different things, and I basically told you 3 of them. Like 3 are part of like the main, but all this other craziness that's happening as well. So yeah, that's Danger Street. I'm gonna keep going. I have the whole thing, so I might as well. This was early on when I started getting into the medium and just collecting and not even understanding what I was doing. So I just kept buying these, and then at the end I finally started reading them. But this book, number 5, came out April 2023, so like 2 years ago. And so that means like the first one probably came out maybe 2022, end of the year, or beginning of 2023. So it's a little older, that's for sure. But anyways, let's get to the next book. We have Outsiders, number 10. And so for this one, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.5. And we're coming towards the end here, and this is actually me finally realizing that this book is the reason why you have the reboot leading into where DC is now at with All In. It took me a while to understand that, but it's weird because as I'm reading it, I wasn't thinking about the actual time of when this came out. In actuality, August 14th, 2024, and this is the second to last one. Then you have an 11, and then you have the reboot of like All In, which I'd be kind of interested to see. When did All In come out? Because that was the start and the reboot of what you have in the DC universe right now. So All In Special came out in October, so that makes perfect sense. So let me flip back over to this guy so you can see it. So yeah, this book number 10 came out in August, and then All In happened in October. So this is just the explanation, basically, the Outsiders is anyways, of the end of this universe. So it's like, oh, of course this person was going to win. And then you have the reboot of the brand new All In, and you've been seeing that tag basically in every single DC book for the most part, starting in October, because I'm sure 11 then probably came out in September. Actually, let's just go ahead and flip to it. Yeah, September. And then sure enough, the very next week you got the All In Special and the reboot. So anyways, for book 10, so yeah, I gave it a 4 again. Lee gave it a 3.5. This book here, we get the explosion of the universe, basically. So Drummer is revealed to be our big bad, and I think she kind of was in the last issue, but I wasn't really picking up on it. It didn't explicitly tell us, but this is very clear. Like, Drummer's blowing it all up. So she is the Century Woman, and she exists no matter what. So in between universes, as they come and go, New 52, all the other stuff that's happened decades, and like you have these universes that last for X amount of years, and then they blow it all up and restart. She's gone through all of those, right? And that, I think Infinite Crisis was one of them, right? You have so many of them. And Marvel does the same thing. And she's basically like, I'm sick and tired of that. I'm going to end it all and then rebuild it almost in like her image type deal. And she does. You have Luke Fox and Batwoman trying to stop them, or her. So they're fighting their way all the way down to like the cavern and cave where she's at. She's loading up everything to go ahead and restart the universe. The cool thing that you have back are callbacks from earlier issues like 1 through 4, where it was like Adventure of the Week, and they meet up with like these different monsters and things and like try to understand what all is happening. They all get summoned here. Drummer banishes all of them, and then sure enough, she just goes ahead and blows up the universe, and it's the end. So yeah, and then it's all going to tie up in 11, and then you have All In. You have the restart. So maybe a little dense of me to like finally get to the point now where I realize that, but that's what this book is. It's trying to explain the end of the universe before we have the new start with All In. And again, I was still kind of new to comics when I'm like picking this stuff up, so I'm just reading stuff just to be reading stuff, but now it makes a lot more sense as I'm getting towards the end here. So let's go ahead and flip to the art. That's basically the story. There's nothing really you need beyond that. You got a bunch of like random exposition trying to be overly poetic and dramatic here, but a lot of that honestly isn't even needed. Here's the reveal that you have some of the other folks from the earlier issues. So this beast, I think, was issue number 2. These folks are issue like 2. She was like 3 or 4, and she was like 5 or 6. Before it was revealed, like, oh yeah, the whole universe is like ending. Art here is phenomenal. Like, look at that. That is awesome stuff. This is a really great one too. So that's what pushed it over the edge for me. But I'd say, rightfully so, deserves to be between like a 3.5 and a 4. But the art did push it over the edge. And it's been a fun little adventure that we've had going here. So at the end, boom, the universe is being deleted towards the end here. Leading into issue 11, we'll see how that all nicely ties up. And we'll be done with this one, which is one of the longer backlogs that I'll have officially completed, which is pretty cool. So that's Outsiders number 10. Not the time to jump in, obviously. We're so close to the end here. And all of this is out in trade. If you're really interested on how the previous universe all came to an end, that's all fine and well, and that makes sense. But you don't need it at this stage of the game. But I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.5. Excuse me. Something's stuck in my throat. Or a little tickle. The last book that we have here is Batman, the Brave and the Bold, number 12. And for those that have been following along, know I always need to pull up my notes for this one because it is an anthology. And you have, in this one, 5 different, mini stories that we have to talk through. And I can't remember all of them at once without referring to my notes. So again, an anthology. Some books you have book or short stories that have continued from previous issues. Other times you have like just a literal one shot, like maybe it's 4 or 5 different panels. It just depends. So this one, we have 5 books within this anthology. Mother's Day Part 3, which is the conclusion. Left Unsaid, which is just a one-off. Artemis, Poison Within, Part 3, I want to say. A Parting Gift, which is just a one-off. And Henchman, which is just a one-off. So all those 5 in this one book here. And it's a lot bigger. It's 64 pages that you have. So, basically the span of 2 books, and there's barely any ads that you have in here too. So Mother's Day Part 3 is basically Batman in Part 2 has been corrupted, Bruce Wayne, and bitten by like some sort of vampire thing. And he went to try to go to Dr. Langstrom, I want to say, or Langle, I can't remember. But he tries to get the antidote. It's the wrong antidote, so he still is like corrupted. And he goes to, I think it's like an orphanage, and he's like dating a girl there. And he shows up, but his like shirt is all tattered and bloodied up. So that's the end of that issue. Start of this issue, she clearly knows something's up. Her dog knows something's up. And Bruce like forces himself in. He's got the red eyes and everything. And she tries to get away from him. And he goes to like try to bite her and infect her. Robin comes in, or who's going to be the Robin, and hits him with an actual antidote. Because they got the formula wrong on the last time when they tried to put the antidote. But this is the right one. And sure enough, it snaps Bruce out of it. And so he's back and understands what's going on. So now you got this whole horde of all these different vampires out there, but there's like one brooding mother that it's all stems from. So they go and they infiltrate this mansion where Bruce was before, where he got infected. So they go through there and they start spreading out this gas to use to cure everyone. But as they're fighting through, they see like the mother and her lair is like deep within. And the only way to really destroy her is not like through this antidote. You have to bring her up to the light. So that's what they do. Batman's able to like get his waist around her. You have the like bat plane or whatever going by. They hoist her up, and then the light shines, completely destroys, and she's gone. And now Bruce is like, okay, we had this incident that I had here, but she can't be the only one. We got to go to the source. So he leaves, and he leaves, his date that he was with the whole time, breaking her heart basically. But at the same time, it's like, I got to go out and do this whole thing to help stop the spread of this thing. And I think that's going to be the end of that one. So that's Mother's Day. Then Left Unsaid is like a crazy story. So you have this guy, his whole job is to dress up like Mission Impossible with like prosthetics and everything. So he's like 100% in disguise, and he just does whatever his clients ask him to do. So in this one, we have a grandmother whose son has died, but the son was kind of an asshole and a deadbeat and left his daughter. She's like, I want you to dress as the son, go to the daughter, and basically make amends and try to apologize, and so that way that the daughter has better feelings and thoughts about the father. So he goes and he does it, and he plays the role perfectly. But when he's done, this ghost appears and is like, what the F? Why'd you do that? This was a terrible guy. He doesn't deserve this. And you need to now somehow figure it out. Otherwise, I'm going to haunt you for all the rest of the days. So he's like, shit, what do I do? So he decides to dress up as the grandmother and then go back to the daughter and tell her, hey, this is all a ruse. I paid someone to do it. So that way that they would make you feel better about your father, but in the end he's actually just an asshole and you shouldn't feel good about it. So he dressed up as the grandmother, never told the grandmother about it, so now you have this all screwed up situation. Daughter still hates the father, grandmother thinks that maybe the daughter likes him but doesn't really quite know, and this guy like playing both sides of it. Really interesting, weird kind of one-off story. So that was kind of cool. I enjoyed that one. Then we have Artemis, the Poison Within. This is a part 3. Artemis is in the desert. She was like going through this self-loathing journey. She was bitten by a snake and then poisoned, and basically has a therapy session with her horse while she's like tripping on this poison. Comes out of it. Now part 3, she's attacked by this army, and she seems to be part of Themyscira, and they're looking for Wonder Woman somehow. So they all go attacking her, and she holds her own for a little bit. Then they bring out the big guns, and they got her all tied down, and it looks like she's got nowhere to go, and they're trying to find Wonder Woman. That's that story. That was fine. I'd say above fine. I'd say good. Then we have the next 2, Parting Gifts and Henchmen. So these are just one-offs. Parting Gifts was kind of a weirder one also. You have this guy, and he meets Swamp Thing, and you realize that this guy is actually dying. And what actually happened is he was a whistleblower working for this corporation that was dumping a whole bunch of stuff into a swamp or whatever. They took him and they killed him, like Boeing style, like just killed the witness. And the Swamp Thing like heard about this, and so rather than letting the guy die a slow death, like basically put all his vines up through him, and it was like, this is my gift to you of like dying a more peaceful death, of like getting high and like you're being one fused with the environment. Weird one-off thing, but that's that story. And then the end is Henchmen. And so this is a guy who is a hench for all the bad villains, sees Batman, invites Batman into his house. Batman actually accepts the offer. He's like, yeah, my wife just died. I'm not going to hench anymore. Everything's like good now. She always wanted me to stop, so I'm going to do it for her behalf. So he goes to offer Batman some food. Hench opens up the fridge, and it's a gun in there, pulls it out, turns it on Batman, and of course Batman knew. It's like, I knew you weren't going to stop. And he said, and now next time I see you, rather than being, just breaking your nose, I may do a little bit more. And so Batman then leaves, and it's just this guy looking down, has a shotgun in his lap, and it's like this thing of like, the cycle just never ends type deal. So that was pretty cool. So that was all the books. So I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. Brave and the Bold has waffled between a 3.5 and the 4. These more recent ones, I think since the start of Artemis, have all been, and now that I'm done with my notes, I can flip back over here. I think they've all been 4s. Let's go to the share screen here. This is a 4. Last one, 4. Yeah, and then the one before that, yeah, 4. And I think 3.5. Oh, no, 4 for that as well. So it's picked up since 10 and beyond, which is good. It just makes this a lot more tolerable. Because you can imagine if you're reading like a double issue and I read through 10, it's like, man, that takes up 20% of the books. I'm just reading this once. I'd like them all to be at least good. And Brave and the Bold is definitely picking back up, which is good. I like to see that. So this is kind of the first issue, or the first story within the Mother story, and you have like kind of this beast that has turned them into all these crazy things. Pulls up into the light, and then the realization that he needs to go out and try to end all these things. So he's meeting up here with like a supermodel that he freed before, but his actual goal is to go to that island and then try to figure out where the source of all this stuff is. Then here we have the breakdown of the guy telling all the lies, the ghost that shows up, and him basically going in and deciding you need to confess and actually tell her what is truly up. Then the Artemis story, out in the desert, all the fighting that's taking place. Yeah, I think that Artemis is pretty cool. I thought the first two were interesting, and now to go at this angle is pretty cool as well. The Swamp Thing one, which was just a really weird one, of like, yeah, you're dying, I'm just trying to have you die more peacefully, connected to these vines. And then the last one, which usually is black and white for the last one, is the Henchman one, where he pulls out the gun, and just the cycle continuing in Gotham, and like there's no arrest. So yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, that is Batman the Brave and the Bold number 12. Again, I gave that a I gave that a 4. What did Lee give it? Lee gave it a 3.8 is what they gave it. So let's go over the books one more time for the audio folks so they can see it as well. So again, we had X-Men number 9, Dazzler number 4, Rat City number 15, Miles Morales Spider-Man number 18. That is our comic of the issue. Sister Imperator number 4, Shi Haikyo number 1, Scarlet Witch number 2, Danger Street number 5, Outsiders number 10, and then Batman the Brave and the Bold number 12. So that is going to wrap it up. Those are the books. Obviously, this is the Omega, so we're going to have the regular Saturday issue post. I was able to get the books on Wednesday. It's Wednesday that I'm recording this in the afternoon. I'll probably get it posted this evening. So I should be able to read all 10 books, no issue, pretty quickly. Get that all good to go. It's actually 19 books that I picked up this week. So a lot of the Omega for next week is going to be mostly filling out the books that I did not get to for the current week. That's kind of the goal there. But other than that, we'll just kind of keep it going. Standard stuff as I've been doing. Same format, same cadence, so on and so forth. So if there's anything that you like to see special in the episode, of course, that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and then YouTube. Those are all the different ways that you can reach out to me. Saturday morning, cbreview@gmail.com for emails is probably the best place there. And then, again, all the social stuff. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so very much, and I will see you in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.